Thanks, Philip. I'm glad you joined us today. Hope you're having a great weekend. My goal of the show is to interview our community leaders and individuals that help make Putnam County a great place to live. As most of you already know, the United States has a major addiction problem with drugs and alcohol. Putnam County is not exempt from that problem. Currently, over 90% of the inmates in our county jail have an addiction problem. They either used, sold, manufactured, or owned drugs or alcohol when they committed the crimes. Also, as we already know, incarceration is not the answer to the epidemic, but treatment is. Recently, I was proud to attend a ribbon cutting here in Cookeville for a new treatment facility in Premier Medical Center over on North Washington Avenue called Cumberland Heights. Today, my guests are Bob Valerio, who is the Regional Outreach Coordinator for Cumberland Heights, and Chaney, who is the Mobile Assessor and Family Therapist for Cumberland Heights. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for being on the show, and so proud that Cumberland Heights decided to open the new outpatient facility here in Cookeville, and both of you have a long history with Cumberland Heights. But Bob, first of all, tell us a little bit about Cumberland Heights and its history of addiction treatment.
Thanks for having us. Yes, Cumberland Heights has a wonderful history. We were actually the first addiction treatment center ever to come to the Southeast. We were started by a man named Robert Crichton, who was a very wealthy Nashville businessman, but also had a severe alcohol problem. Back in the 60s, when we started in 1965, he would do what most alcoholics did back then, which they would go to the hospital and they would dry him out there and they'd go back and they'd start drinking again.
Start all over again.
Yeah, they didn't have formal treatment programs anywhere here, so he had to go to Chicago for treatment. He came back one day and he got with Thomas Brist Sr., the physician, also the father of Bill Frist, our former senator and majority leader, and said that they needed a place like a treatment center in Tennessee for Tennesseans. And they started Cumberland Heights as a nonprofit. Again, that was 53 years ago in 1965.
Wow.
And so, yeah, we've got a long, rich history. Opened our 13th outpatient office here, and it's an honor to be in Cookeville.
How long have you been with them, Bob? You're the Regional Outreach Coordinator, and you and I go back a long ways. I've known you for a long time. How long have you been with Cumberland Heights?
I've been over there just over 2 years. I've been doing addiction treatment in the Upper Cumberland for quite a while. I started with Cumberland Heights a little bit over 2 years ago.
Lori, you're the Mobile Assessor and the Family Therapist for Cumberland Heights. What's your day-to-day job? How's that involved with Cumberland Heights?
I work with individuals that are seeking treatment, so I complete their assessment and see which level of care they need and get them connected to the right, whether it be inpatient at our River Road facility or at one of our more local IOPs, which is intensive outpatients. And we've got one in Crossville and one in Cookeville here. So we get them set up and get them going and on that road to recovery.
So you have a large inpatient facility down in Nashville that's been open for many years, and you guys deal with this on a day-to-day basis. We see it in the county because of folks' incarceration in our jail and crimes, and I'm guessing that there's no one listening this morning that they have either been affected, someone in their family, friends, someone they know that's been through an addiction problem recently. You see it on a day-to-day basis. It used to just be alcohol, mostly. Today, it's totally different to live involved.
Yes, so the recent phenomenon, we're always having, every few years it seems like there's another cycle. It was meth a while ago, now it's opiates. But also marijuana and benzodiazepines. Currently, because of the new prescribing laws, we're finally seeing a decrease in the amount of opiates, and we did decrease the supply, which needed to happen. Unfortunately, the demand is still there.
Right.
So the problem is still with us, and instead of using opiates, now we see resurgence in meth.
Going back to the meth, that was a big problem we had years ago with people making the meth and contaminating homes and different things with those meth labs. And then I think that's changed recently, hasn't it? Where we're starting to see the meth being brought in from other countries to America. So on a day-to-day basis, Lori, what do you see mostly when you're dealing with these folks? Is it the prescription drugs or is it the other illegal drugs?
You see a lot of the prescription drugs, a lot of the opiates coming off of that. And sometimes if they're not finding their source or their source has been cut off, then you see the increase in meth. And starting to see just a little bit of heroin coming back in with that. So you see that still meth is a larger trend and replacing that, but then we see the heroin coming in with that. And still alcohol is still a huge concern with that. So I see about 50-50 on each. You know, in any given IOP, you'll see about half and half in the class.
We've kind of, I don't want to say put a blind eye, but it seems like all the attention is being put now onto the drug issue, and the alcohol. Folks don't think as much about it anymore as they don't think, but we keep seeing repeat offenders that are on their 7th, 8th, 9th DUI and alcohol-related accidents where that folks are injured or killed. So on a day-to-day basis, you're still treating those folks who've seen alcohols come in.
Absolutely. And the recovery, I mean, sobriety is very much the same when you are training it and looking at the way we're going to look at that roadmap, and whether it be detoxing and starting off a path, whether it be residential and then moving into an IOP sessions and getting those in there and integrated into your community with others that are supporting you with your sobriety. So that's so important in those 12-step meetings, and encourage that. So the steps getting to sobriety are very much the same. So they see, while we do have NA classes and AA classes, you still see a lot of the same steps that they're moving towards in their road to recovery, whether it be alcohol or drugs.
We're talking with Bob Valerio and Lori Chaney this morning of a new outpatient clinic we have here in Putnam County. It's called Cumberland Heights. It's located in the Premier Medical Park over on North Washington Avenue, and it's a treatment facility for addiction, whether that be alcohol or drugs, whatever it might be. And we've had an issue in Putnam County and all across the country and probably all across the world with drugs and alcohol addiction for many years, and we have to find a way to be able to take care of that and treat it, and these guys are doing that on a day-to-day basis. My guest today is Bob Valerio and Lori Chaney from Cumberland Heights, a new treatment facility that's opened up here in Cookville down the Premier Medical Park. It's an addiction treatment facility, outpatient, and they're looking to help us with the ongoing drug and alcohol problems that we have not only in Putnam County but all across the state and the country. Guys, when it comes to treating addiction, I know there's a lot of different theories and a lot of different ways to do that, but as far as Cumberland Heights go, if you have someone that contacts you with an addiction problem, what's some of the ways that you treat the addiction, some of the programs that you have to offer them?
Well, it starts with an assessment. Depending on the drug of choice, the length of use, the frequency can determine kind of the level of care. Most people, by the time they get over denial and go to treatment, usually need inpatient treatment, which starts with detoxing, which is unfortunately just the start of the road. A lot of people, over 5 to 7 days, they're actually in physical recovery. Their body has no physical need for the drug anymore, but we know that drug addiction is more than a physical problem. Right. It's also an emotional, social, and spiritual problem.
Right.
So after that, they go to residential rehab, which is a lot of group therapy. It's a lot of education, knowing why your wife might be able to have a glass of wine at dinner, but that will be poison to you, right, and you will need the whole bottle. So it's a lot of brain science, things like that. And again, it's a lot of group therapy. Group therapy is the hallmark of addiction treatment. They're there to support you, and to have someone like a boss or a wife or a legal person telling you need to quit, they can get resistant. But when you're there with people that are going through the same struggle, there's a lot of power in that. Plus, they'll also hold you accountable. They'll call you out on your you-know-what when you get delusional thinking, like saying, well, I'll just smoke pot, because that's never been a problem for me. There's a bunch of people are going to object to that. Yeah. So we do that, put them in a residential rehab. We have an extended care program. We also have a men and women's year-long 12-step immersion program, kind of for those people that frequently relapse. They know what they need to do and never put it into place. And then after we discharge, we always want them to continue care in their community. It's easy to keep them sober and patient with Cumberland Heights. They're in the woods of Nashville, 177 beautiful acres in the bubble.
Away from all their enablers.
Yeah, but then they have to come home to life.
Right.
It's just because you're not using doesn't mean that life's not going to throw you a few
Curveballs.
sucker punches there. So so we bring them back here, and I'll let Lori tell you what we do out here in Cookville and Crossville.
And one thing I wanted to add, as we help many men and women get onto that road of sobriety, we also have a youth facility too, which Bob can talk more about, but I want to make that known to your
It's not just
listeners.
adults, it's youth also.
Because we do have those under age 18 that are still minors that are needing that help, and we do have that on the River Road location in Nashville for
Great,
inpatient.
great.
But once someone is able to discharge from inpatient on River Road, we give them the option of going into intensive outpatient, which is back in their community. So they're back integrating into what is this going to look like sober. So for us in Cumberland County, they come back, which we meet in the evening times from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And we have a primary counselor there, David Sappington, who does a wonderful job in helping those. So we're off on Wednesdays. They go Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and pretty vigorous.
Right.
It's a lot there to go over your different coping skills. They work the 12-step program. They get psychoeducation, everything that they need to kind of set them on that path. We also do on Thursday evenings from 6 to 9 is our family group time. So we bring in those family members, our loved ones, the best friends, whatever that person, shows as their support system that is crucial to their recovery. And I spend about an hour and a half with them individually as just family members.
Right.
In a group setting, and we talk about what's going on, what are the issues that they're facing, what does it look like different for them. Some people have relationships that revolve, intimate relationships that may revolve around they don't even know that person sober. They don't know, they've never had a relationship with them
Right.
sober. So that's a big difference when you're looking at that type of relationship.
Absolutely.
So we talk about those things, kind of look at that. We do some psycho ed and kind of the disease of the addiction and how we can support somebody in recovery, and just ways to communicate better with the family roles and the dynamic of the family, and how sometimes that creates enabling or relapse. So we do some discussion on boundaries and how important they are, and maybe they need to start being set in the families, or in friendships. So there's a lot of education that goes on there, and part of that healing and helping those in recovery. And we do that on Thursdays.
And it's a long journey, isn't it, with treating addiction.
Lifelong.
And having those support of your family and your friends has got to play a huge part in that program, right?
Absolutely. You can't do it on your own. That's where so many people fall off, and
Fall
the
off.
relapse happens, because many have burned their bridges after so many years of drugs and alcohol. They don't have that support system anymore. So we as a community have to step in and be that support for them while they're building the trust back with their family. And that's just how it is. And then we got to have that in our community.
How successful, do you keep up with, it may be difficult with some of these folks that after a period of time, but do you keep up with the success rate of folks that stay sober for the rest of their life or long periods of time?
Yes, that's a great question. We get asked this question all the time. Everybody who works in addiction treatment is, what is your success rate? Cumberland Heights has pioneered research in that. We hired a chief science officer, because in the past, here's what happened, Mr. Porter, is we would have someone that left care, and we would periodically check with them, call them like every 6 months and
Right.
say, are you still sober? And if they said yes, we checked the box and said success rate. And if they said no, we said, well, you need to come back to treatment. Well, that's lousy.
It's not a good way.
It was lousy. It was very unscientific, and a lot of these patients you couldn't track over the long haul. So what we've done there is we actually have a patient portal, and when they come on to the River Road campus in Nashville, we assess them for all these different things in their lives. present with anger, jealousy, loneliness. We track them there. They receive a tablet, but then we also track that after they leave, because now what we're trying to do, we know what the key indicators for that person are for a relapse. So instead of just calling them and asking them if they've been drinking again, we're having them take these online assessments and say, hey, his grandmother died, he's really grieving. We know that's an issue for him.
Right.
And we do the intervention instead of waiting till they drink.
So your
Managed care organizations are actually starting to mandate that. They're starting to say that we need to see what those rates out. So we also use it as a predictive factor, that we know that these guys have stayed sober over the long period with this counselor, and their drug of choice was alcohol. This guy's really good with that old alcoholic.
Yeah.
So we use it for a predictive factor too, to track exactly how we're doing.
guys, I want to make sure that our listeners know how they can get in touch with you, and if they have someone, whether it be a family member or a friend, that they can get the information to be able to get into your program. Can you give us that information?
Sure. If you are wanting to contact Cumberland Heights directly on our campus in Nashville, the general number is 615-352-1757. If you have more questions for Bob, and his cell number is 615-210-6042. And if you're looking for an assessment here locally, you can dial my cell, and I'll be happy to help you with that also, at 931-250-1966.
Great. Guys, if you have someone that you know that's needing help, this is a great facility to be able to help them and get them treatment. Bob, I'm going to give you a shout out, okay? The county has been working through drug-free workplace, being certified through the state. And we've had a lot of that in place for many years, and we just haven't been certified because the way the law was set up, it was very expensive to keep the ongoing training going. But now that law has changed, and you're finishing up some classes teaching some 500 or 600 county employees about the drug-free workplace and the certification we're going through. And I will say thank you for doing that. And I have heard nothing but compliments about the classes and how they've learned stuff that they didn't even think about when it came to drugs and alcohol.
Well, it's been an honor as a 25-year resident of Putnam County, and I live in the county now out in Dotson Branch. I rely on your services, and have for a long time. It's been a great honor.
Well, thank you. I have one thing that I get so many questions about. I'm sure you do too. I hear it from county employees. I hear it from people out in the public. And it's about CBD oil, the products that are out there. And we have questions even from employees that have went to the doctor and they have certain illnesses or diseases, and even the doctors have recommended that they take the CBD oil, and they have, and it helps them. They're worried about that showing up on the drug test and so forth. So you're as close to an expert that I know of when it comes to the CBD stuff. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So, CBD is basically just a genetically altered form of marijuana. Lowering the THC level, made it into hemp. You liquefy the hemp and you can put it in just about anything. And if you've been around Putnam County, you've seen all the CBD shops that are opening up. They come in a bunch of different products. When I do the training on CBD, I try and answer a couple questions. Does it work? We don't have a lot of good scientific research on it yet, and what we have comes from the people that make it, or they sponsor the studies. But anecdotally, I've had enough people, and we all have, that have said that it's given them medical benefits. It doesn't cure anything, but it's definitely given people symptom relief.
Right.
FDA recently approved Epidiolex, which is used for epilepsy. It has, again, symptom relief for a lot of people that suffer from seizures.
Right.
We've used CBD-type products like Marinol for cancer patients for years, so it does have some medicinal value. I don't think it meets all the claims that they do, but obviously not all these people are being duped.
Right.
Some people are benefiting for it. As to the failing to drug screen, you definitely can. CBD is highly unregulated. The amount of THC that's in these products that you see locally is not being tested, and there's incentive to use more THC in these products to have them work better, so you can definitely fail a drug screen, and that's exactly what's happening. People across Tennessee are failing drug saying it's CBD, and there's no way they're all lying. There's
Yeah.
just too many of them,
Yeah.
so you definitely can.
Okay. Well, we've had that question with a lot of our employees. Let's talk just a minute about marijuana. There's this big push across the country. A lot of states have already legalized it. Some just for medical use, some for just open use to the general public. And I know that's been a topic at the legislature here in Tennessee for the last few years with different bills, and it hasn't passed here. I've always thought, and if you don't feel the same, tell me, I always thought that marijuana was kind of like people start with it and then they move up to the harder drugs. Do you see that in the people that you treat, or am I wrong about that?
It is considered a segue drug, and definitely can be looked at that. I'll let Bob speak about that on how it works.
Yeah, definitely a segue drug, but so is tobacco. Just about anything can be a segue drug, but you're correct. Most people start out their drug use somewhere around the age 12 to 14 with marijuana and alcohol.
Right.
That's almost consistent across the board.
You hear both sides of it, of whether we should legalize it or not, and everybody has different opinions. Do you see very many people in your business that are just addicted to marijuana that come for treatment?
I don't see many. Most people that come to us with marijuana have marijuana and other drugs too. Sometimes you'll see that in adolescents, but most people that are marijuana smokers are using other classes of drugs too.
What would you say to, if there's families out there today that are listening and they've got a loved one or a friend or someone that's on drugs? I know we gave them the contact information of how to get in touch with you, but dealing with those folks on a day-to-day basis and seeing the relapse and everything, you got any good advice for those folks?
Oh yeah. So what I try and get people, when I get the call that says I have a loved one who doesn't think they have a problem, they say, I don't have a problem, you're my problem. If you just left me alone, I'd be fine.
Right.
I get that call a lot.
Right.
So what I tell them to do is try and do this. Try and get someone that's influential in their life to try and get them to call me or call a treatment center. When a person gets approached by a loved one, they feel judged. And so they get resistant and they deny and they minimize and they attack. So when I tell them, just see if you can get them to call me. That sounds a lot more appealing, telling that you know somebody who for free and confidentially will get them an assessment so that they can make a decision about what they want to do, which sounds a lot more appealing than you need to go to rehab or you need to quit drinking.
Right.
When I get that call, what I try and do is bond with them, let them know that I'm there for them, that my job is to help them, tell them that I understand them, and then I'll do that. I'll get them, get Lori to assess them. We'll go over what their treatment options are worth them so they can make an informed decision instead of going on Google or talking to family and friends and getting misinformation and get paralyzed in inaction. So that's what we ask you to do. See if you can just get them to make one phone call.
And that may be all it takes sometimes. It's just that one phone call. Guys, I'm so glad that you're in Cookville. I'm so glad that Cumberland Heights came and opened up a center here, and y'all do great work. And I just want to say thank you on behalf of the community for what you do to help the folks that have those addiction problems to try to get clean and be sober. And thank you again for being on the show today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.